You know what? I'm just getting started recording and looking at this. I don't know if this shirt is going to work. Is this too much blue? I think it's too much blue. I think I look a little bit like a floating head. Hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, that's better. Now you can see me. What's up, girls, guys, and otherwise? My name is Cal, aka Far From Perfect, and we did it. We made it through a month of aimlab every day. I'm super excited about it. Super excited to talk about the results, and it's crazy how fast a month can go when you're trying to start a habit or going through something like this. I mean, one day it's day one, and the next it's the end of the month, and it's all over. But you know, even though the month went by kind of fast, we do have some things to talk about. We've got some positive outcomes that happened. We've got some realizations we're going to talk about and some recommendations. So let's go. All right, I know the whole reason that we're here is to check out the final scores for the month. But before we do that, down below, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, it would greatly help me out. It would help the channel grow, and it would be greatly appreciated. All right, now, onto those scores. Okay, to have a good comparison of our ending scores and our beginning scores, we're going to go through all of them. We're going to put them all together. So here's the evaluation scores. In week 1, week 2, week 3, and our final scores week 4. There they are. Those are the final numbers that we ended with for the month. But I know that it may not be easy to understand the numbers when they're just sort of laid out there. So I put this together with my amazing skills in Microsoft Excel. There it is. That's all the scores put together. And there are a couple of things that we can deduce from this graph. So the big thing that we really get from this graph right here is we get to see how all of these scores moved over all of the 5 different points in time, from the evaluation all the way to the end of this week, week 4. And if you look at it, there are a couple of different things that happened to the different types of stats. If we look at tracking and precision, those consistently went up. They consistently improved, which make me very happy because that means that I was doing something right in those areas. We can see perception and cognition were kind of flat. Cognition kind of had a little bit of a bump there at the end of week 2. Flicking had a bit of an arc and then stayed flat. But the weird one was speed. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But from here, let's talk about some positive outcomes that came from this month of aimlab training. So obviously, looking at that graph, you know, we can see some positive trends, but I've also got the handy dandy notebook back at it again with some things that I've written down. First and foremost being my improvement in tracking. My movement tracking targets in the FPS gameplay that I've been doing has gotten better. I've felt it. My scores have gone up because of it. It's not just the stats in the game that are improving, it's translating really well into my gameplay. Number 2 is just overall control of what I'm doing. Things aren't as sporadic, things aren't as panicky when I'm playing. You know, I have control over my mouse and my keyboard and how I feel and what's going on. And number 3, I was able to improve my mouse grip, where I was placing everything. My posture's gotten better when I'm playing, and everything just physically feels better because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing and being cognizant of what's going on with my body and my mind while I'm playing. It's a really interesting feeling. You wouldn't think that with playing games you would have to think so much about your positioning and how you're sitting or moving, but it really, really does help. So there are some positive outcomes. Now let's go to some not quite as positive realizations. So the first realization should come as a surprise to nobody, and that's there's still a lot of things that I need to work on. Did aimlab help me become better? Am I a better player now because of this past month? Absolutely. Am I an aimbot? Absolutely not. There are tons of people better than me. There are tons of people that have a lot more skill than me, and I just need to continue to work on it if I want to get there. Realization number 2 was that leaving skills out of a regular rotation of practice hurt me in the long run. And I think that that's what happened with my speed statistic. Is at the beginning I did a few scenarios to practice it and to get that stat up, but then I didn't focus on it until the end of the month. This past week, I made it a point to work on it because I knew that I hadn't. I even wrote it down like I said that I was going to and took some notes as I was doing it. But as I was going throughout the practice session, I realized that the score was going down. And I think that it's just because I hadn't touched it in a while. And so that skill diminished. And so next time, whenever I do something like this again, I'll want to keep my practice focused, but also well-rounded. And this last realization isn't really a negative or a positive, it's just kind of an observation from over the month, and that's different games require different skills. And what I mean by that is aimlab lays out all of these skills for you, tells you your stats in them, all of that, but depending on what game you're playing, you're going to need to be good at different skills. For instance, in Valorant, you may have to be more efficient with your flicking and perception, but in games like Apex Legends, tracking is key. So it all depends on what you're doing, what game you're playing, and what you're trying to get good at. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on are some recommendations. First and foremost, would I recommend that people play aimlab? Yes, I would. It helps me out immensely. There's a great creative mode that I didn't even touch that a lot of people are having a lot of fun with. But I think that it's a great game, and I think it's a great way to train yourself up on first-person shooters. Now, do I recommend doing it every day like I just did? Maybe. It depends really on what you're trying to get out of it. If you're trying to go big in esports and become pro, I mean, practicing every day is kind of something you may want to do. But for me, somebody who's not really a pro, somebody who's just doing it to get better personally, I may just be switching to doing it as a warm-up. If I'm about to go into a game, I may have a couple scenarios set aside for that specific game to warm me up for however long I'm going to be playing. So that's it. That is the end of our month-long aimlab journey. Thank you so much for joining me on it. I hope that you got something out of it. I know for a fact that I did. But even if you didn't, here's 2 pieces of advice that I can give you from doing this. Number 1 is make sure you're still having fun with it. That's what all of this is about. That's what gaming is about. It's about the fun. And so make sure that you keep the fun in whatever you're doing. And number 2, stretch. For the love of God, stretch. I can't tell you how many times I was practicing without stretching, cramped my wrist, cramped up my finger from clicking too fast or whatever. But please take care of yourself and stretch. But on that note, thank you again for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Be good to each other. We'll see you. I just gotta heal up. Hit on him. Oh! Let's go!